Once upon a time, in a cozy little town, there lived a kind and cheerful girl named Rachel. Rachel was excited because she was planning her dream wedding to a handsome young man named Greg. Greg was strong and smart, and Rachel loved him very much. Rachel spent her days picking out flowers, choosing dresses, and making sure everything would be perfect for their big day. But Greg had two best friends, Tony and George, who were always by his side. Tony was the funny one, and George was the clever one, who loved books and quiet moments. They were both very fond of Rachel. One sunny afternoon, Greg invited Rachel to meet Tony and George. "Rachel, these are my best friends," Greg said proudly. Tony made a funny face and said, "Nice to meet you, future Mrs. Greg. I'm here to keep you smiling." George smiled gently and said, "It's a pleasure, Rachel. I have heard a lot about you. Do you like pottery?" Rachel laughed. She liked how different they were. Tony jokes make her giggle, and George's quiet word make her feel calm. As the wedding day grew closer, John and George began helping Rachel with the plan. Tony told jokes while she worked, making her laugh so hard that she split her teeth. George, on the other hand, suggested poems for the invitations. "You are lucky to have such helpful friends," Rachel told Greg. But Greg didn't smile. He seemed distracted, which made Rachel worry. One evening, Rachel showed Greg a plan for the wedding. In front, "Do you think this is all happening too fast?" Greg asked. Rachel had snack. "What do you mean? Don't you want to marry me?" Greg didn't answer. Instead, he walked away, leaving Rachel feeling confused and sad. The next day, Greg came to Rachel with a serious look on his face. "I'm sorry, Rachel," he said. "I can't go through with the wedding. I need time to think about my life." Rachel's heart broke into a million pieces. She cried and cried, not knowing what to do. But then Tony and George came to visit her. Tony knocked on Rachel's door with a big bag of snacks and a goofy grins. "Who needs Greg's when you have gotten Tony, the king of laughter?" he said. He told her silly jokes and even pretended to trip over a chair. Rachel couldn't help but laugh, even though her heart was still heavy. The next day, George brought Rachel a book of poems. "These are for you," he said softly. "Sometimes words can help heal a broken heart." Rachel read the poem and felt a little better. George's quiet presence made her feel calm and safe. Tony and George both want to help Rachel, but they end up bumping into each other all the time. One day, Tony was trying to make Rachel laugh, and George walked in with a new book for her. "What's this? A library visit?" Tony teased. "And what's this? A comedy show?" George replied. Rachel couldn't help but laugh at their silliness. As the day went by, Rachel started feeling something she didn't understand. Tony jokes always made her smile, but George's quiet words stayed in her heart long after he left. She wondered if she was feeling something more than friendship for Greg's best friends. "This is silly," Rachel thought. "I'm just lonely because Greg left me." But deep down, she wasn't so sure. One morning, Tony showed up with an idea. "Let's go out, Rachel," he said. "I know the perfect place to cheer you up." Tony took her to a carnival filled with colorful rides and fun games. He won her a big teddy bear at the ring toes, and they laughed until her cheek hurt. For the first time since Greg left, Rachel felt truly happy. Not long after, George invited Rachel to a small bookshop. The walls were lined with books of every kind, and the air smelled like paper and ink. "This is my favorite place," George said. "I thought you did like it too." They spent hours talking about their favorite stories and reading poems together. Rachel felt a warm glow in her heart as George smiled at her. Tony decided to plan another outing this time. He invites Rachel to a picnic in the park. He packed sandwich, cookies and lemons. But in typical Tony fashion, he accidentally sat on a cake he had bought for dessert. Rachel laughed so hard she cried. "Tony, you are a disaster," she said, still giggling. "Maybe, but I'm your disaster," Tony replied with a wink. One cool evening, Rachel sat alone thinking about Tony and Josh. "Tony make me laugh and Josh make me think," she whispered. "But what do I really want?" She realized that her heart was pulling her in two directions, and it was time to figure out where it truly belongs. Just as Rachel was sorting out her feelings, Greg came back. He knocked on her door with a sad look on his face again. "I made a mistake," Greg said. "I want you back, Rachel." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. She had loved Greg once, but things didn't feel the same anymore. "I need time to think," Rachel replied. "I don't know if I can trust you again." When Tony and George found out that Greg had returned, they were furious. "You don't deserve her," Tony shouted at Greg. "And you left her when she needed you the most," George added. The three argued until Rachel stepped in. "Stop it," she said. "This is my decision, and I will make it when I'm ready." Rachel decided she needed to spend time with each of them to understand her feelings. She planned a day with Tony, a day with George, and a conversation with Greg. "Only my heart can tell me what to do," she thought. Rachel spent her first day with Tony. He took her to the beach, where the wave crashes gently on the stone. For once, Tony wasn't cracking jokes. Instead, he opened up about his life. "People think I'm always happy because I'm funny," Tony said, skipping a stone across the water. "But the truth is, laughter helped me hide my fears. I have always been scared of being alone." Rachel looked at Tony with new eyes. She realized there was so much more to him than just his humor. "You are not alone, Tony," she said softly. "You have me." Tony smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't a goofy grin, it was sincere. The next day, Rachel spent time with Josh. They went to a quiet park and sat under a big oak tree. Josh pulled out a new book and handed it to Rachel. "I wrote this for you," he said, his voice dripping. Inside was a poem. It spoke of courage, love, and finding beauty in broken things. Rachel's heart raised as she read the word. "Josh, this is beautiful," she said, tears in her eyes. "I meant every word," Josh said. "I have cared for you since the day we met, but no matter what you decide, I will always be here for you." Rachel was touched by his honesty. She realized how deeply George cared for her, not just with the words, but with his action. Finally, Rachel sat down with Greg. "Why did you leave me, Greg?" she asked, her voice steady. Greg sighed. "I panicked. I thought I wasn't ready to be a husband. But when I left, I realized how much you meant to me." Rachel nodded but didn't say anything. She could see that Greg regretted his action and decision, but she wasn't sure if she could trust him again. Rachel walked home that evening, her heart heavy. Tony's laughter, George's kindness, and Greg's promises all filled her thoughts. "I have to follow my heart," she whispered. The next day, Rachel heard something that changed everything. A mutual friend told her Greg had left because he heard that marrying someone who is so strong and independent. He said he felt overshadowed by you. Rachel felt a strange sense of relief. She realized Greg hasn't left because of her flaws. He left because of his own fears. Tony, meanwhile, wasn't giving up. He planned a surprise for Rachel, a movie night under the stars. He set up a projector in his backyard, complete with fairy lights and blankets. When Rachel arrived, she was amazed. "I just wanted to see you smile," Tony said. As they watched the movie, Rachel felt a warmth in her chest. Tony's efforts showed how much he cared. George, on the other hand, quietly gave Rachel another point. This one spoke of patience and how love doesn't demand it wait. Rachel was deeply moved. "You are amazing, George," he said. Rachel worried about losing her friendship with Tony and George if she made the wrong choice. She cared deeply for both of them, but she knew she couldn't lead them on forever. "It's time," she told herself. One evening, Rachel called Tony and George to meet her. "I have something to tell you both," she said. Tony and George exchanged nervous glances. "I have made my choice," Rachel continued, her voice steady. Rachel turned to George. "George, you have showed me kindness and patience. I have never felt more understood than when I'm with you. I choose you." George's face lit up. "Rachel, you have made me the happiest man alive." Tony, though heartbroken, smiled. "I will always be your friend, Rachel," he said. "And George, take care of her. She deserves the world." Tony stayed true to his word. He remained Rachel's friend, cheering her on and even helping with her new plans. "You are lucky to have her," Tony told George one day. "Don't mess it up." George smiled. "I won't." As for Greg, he decided to leave the town and start fresh. He wished Rachel the best and promised to work on himself. "I hope you find happiness, Rachel," he said. "I already have," Rachel replied with a smile. Rachel and George decided to have a simple wedding filled with book and laughter. Tony helped organize everything, and the day was full of joy. On a sunny afternoon, under the shade of an oak tree, Rachel and George said their vows. Tony stood by as the best man, cracking jokes that made everyone laugh. As Rachel looked around at the smiling faces, she realized she had found her true happiness, not in a perfect plan, but in the people who truly love her. And so, Rachel, George, and Tony remain best friends, proving that love and friendship can bring the happiest ending.